I work in Utrecht, and since 2003 I've been following children with 22q.1 deletion syndrome. And I've been seeing them basically from 0 to, well now, from 24, 25. So they're lovely children to work with. So when I was asked to talk about interventions, I think, okay, you know, managing stress is basically staying in balance. And you know, being in balance is important for everybody. If you're in balance, then you sleep well. People are out of balance, have problems sleeping, they get headaches. You know, everybody reacts to stress in a different way. And it brings you calmness. And I think especially for children with 22q, it is extra important to find the right balance, because as you saw the talk that Anne gave and Ed, there are so many different things going on all at the same time that it's very tough to maintain the balance. So that's what I want to talk to you about. And I think maintaining balance is about understanding what is happening, because if you understand what is happening, then you can act on it. So I'll be talking you through common characteristics that we're seeing in 22q, and you know, trying to make these stones stay the way they are. Now, all the talks that we're doing at the moment, they're all about the average 22q child, you know. But I was thinking, what is average? What is average? Because I think it's important that we keep looking at the individual child at the same time, while remembering that there are average things in 22q also. So in 2011, there was research done into the average person in the world. So maybe it's nice if we just sort of make a small game out of this, and everybody sticks up their hands, because we're going to see if we can find the average person in this room. So stick up your hand, and if you do not apply to the criteria, then you take your hand down. So maybe we can start with, stick your hand up. Okay. Now the average person, and here it is right-handed. So the lefties put their hand down. He has a mobile telephone. He's male. We're losing some. He's 28. He's Chinese. And he looks like this. No. Of course, what I'm trying to tell you is that there is no average. Well, this is the average person. And like, there is nobody here in the room who meets all the criteria. The same is true for your children, okay? So remember that when you're hearing all these talks, because sometimes it can be quite overwhelming, all the things you're hearing. But remember, it's always about your child, so we have to keep looking at what your child needs and is about. So the average child, 22q, doesn't exist, basically. We're all very different. But at the same time, there are common characteristics. And just as there are common facial characteristics, of course there are characteristics that are seen more often in children with 22q than without. So, if we're talking about stress management, like I was saying, I think it's important that we recognize what the pitfalls are, because you know, knowledge, and Anne was saying this also, knowledge is very powerful, and once you know things, you can act on it and you can recognize it. Now, Ed just gave a wonderful presentation about cognition in 22q, and I thought it was important that we did look at that part too. Because in 22q, nearly 100% of children do have learning difficulties. And the confusing thing is, and I think that was pretty obvious from Ed's talk also, is that it's not a very straightforward cognitive profile that these children have. You know, they have a relatively good memory, they have relatively strong processing speed. These children make a verbally strong impression, but at the same time there are word-finding difficulties with perceptual organization. And I think all these things together make it quite confusing for teachers, but also for parents and for the child themselves too. Because in the classroom, you know, the strong memory makes that if a teacher asks the child, so what did I just say? the child will be able to repeat this perfectly. But that doesn't mean that he or she understands what she has to do. And that's very important for teachers to know also. You know, the memory is good, but it doesn't mean they know what to do. You see somebody nodding their head. Yeah. And at the same time, also the verbally strong impression that they're making does not mean that they understand what is happening. An extra difficulty, I think, in 22Q, and this is something that in Utrecht also we've been researching for a longer time, is that the IQ does change in the course of the children getting older. And in some children, we see that the IQ is going down. And you know, that makes it extra important to focus on what am I asking from this child and what can we expect from him based on recent cognitive assessments, because the cognitive assessment does give you an insight into what are the strengths, but also what are the points that need attention. And that can change. It changes in children with 22Q. So you have to remember that you need frequent assessments. Those are the cognitive characteristics. Now, 22Q children, the way I've met a lot of them, are very sweet children. They're creative. They can be incredibly determined. You know, if they want something and you've agreed that you're going to be doing that thing, you have to come from a very strong home to change that. And you know, a lot of parents recognize that, and then they realize that maybe we have to wait until the day before instead of saying it a week before if you're going to do something special. But this determination also makes them very loyal and very focused. They're very pleasant children, musical children, and although the speech and language is delayed, once they start talking, they love to chat, don't they? Sometimes you hear parents say, oh, I wish just for once you could stop talking. We have cognition, we have character, but we also have behavior. And behavior is, as far as I'm concerned, it's a very important thermometer for looking at your children. A lot of children with 22Q are fearful at a young age, and you know, this could be part of the syndrome, but it could also logically be a result of all the parental concerns that are there. You know, if you have a child who's born with a heart defect, you go through all the operations. There's so much happening at a young age that that can help in being fearful. The social behavior is difficult for these children. They prefer to be with older children than with younger children, but being with peers is difficult. I don't know if you recognize that. And I think at a young age, it is not yet that obvious, because at a young age, you know, communication is very straightforward. No, I don't want to play with you. You're stupid today. So it's okay. You know, it's very, very direct, but very clear. And once you get older, like Anne was also saying, you know, it's more about body stance, and maybe just a raised eyebrow can be enough for other children to understand what's going on. But children with 22Q miss these social cues. They're friendly, but at the same time, we see a lot of sort of clumsiness in the social contacts. Last I was testing a girl who was 8 years old, and she was having a really good time with me, and so she came and sat in my lap. So it was cute, but it's, you know, you don't do it when you're 8. So that's the social clumsiness that I'm talking about. It's sort of feeling what's going on. We do see attention and thought problems in children. The internalizing can sort of change from one minute to the next. You know, you have the internalizing, but you can also have the impulsive behavior. Sometimes children are very tired and suddenly they can hardly sleep. And we do see strong mood swings. But once again, this is all the average 22Q child. Okay? And of course, one of the things that parents are most worried about, I think, is the increase in psychiatric problems. Because it's something and it's there, and you don't really know if it's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So it's always something that as a parent you're also carrying with you. But all these children, they have parents, don't they? And all the years that I've been working with parents, I have found that you can be incredibly committed, just like your child, very patient, because they do test your patience a lot, but also very determined. I mean, you're here and you're probably looking for information in other places too. Parents I see are very loving and very powerful people, and also very creative, because every time you have to think a new way to tell the information or anticipate on things. So it's testing. It's tough for parents too. So we've looked at the average characteristics of 22q, and well, this donkey is not in balance. So what we want to do is we want to tip the scales and make sure that the donkey is in balance. And I think one of the most important things is the behavior, that we use it as a very important predictor, because school behavior and home behavior, I don't know what age your children are, but they can be very different. And at school, teachers will say, oh, I could have a class full of children with 22q because they're so sweet and they're quiet, and parents think, well, one is enough. So in Utrech, there was, I'll just go into this briefly just to show you what we're seeing as far as teachers and parents are concerned. We gave parents and teachers behavioral checklists because we were interested in seeing, how's the behavior in both cases. And we had 146 children with a mean age of 9.4 years, and they basically just filled in the form and we scored it. And this is what we saw. And this is interesting, and because what we're actually seeing is that parents and teachers are seeing the same behavior. And the top line is the parents, and the bottom line are the teachers. So you see, they're seeing the same profile, and they're seeing the same behavioral problems, but also the same behaviors, except it's much, well, it's easier to be the teacher in this case, I think. So I'm going to skip this one. So if we come back to managing stress, I think it's about managing school, and it's about knowing your child. And there are some external things that you can do, so you can make sure that your child is regularly tested. And like Ed said, you can't say do it every other year, but it has to be frequently, because we do know that IQ is changing, and we want to be sure that we're asking what they can actually offer, and not, if you're asking this, but they're actually at this level at the moment, you can see the stress already existing. So, and also, be careful of over-demanding, because these children, they do make a very strong verbal impression. They have a strong short memory. I put Frapur, I forgot to translate that, but it's important for the teachers to recognize this. They have a very strong short-term memory, but it doesn't mean they understand what they are meant to be doing. And the relatively high processing speed also makes that they won't be finished last in the classroom. So all these, one hand protective factors are actually very confusing for the environment. They're confusing for the teacher, they're confusing for you as parents, because you will also, and that's normal, but you will maybe forget that there are actually more things going on. And I really believe that you should use the behavior of your child as a sort of thermometer. If at home he's very angry and acting out, and at school they say, oh, there's no problems here. That might be a very good sign that something is out of balance. Okay? And at the same time, use your child's strengths, because it's so easy to look at all the things that are not working, but there are also a lot of things that these children are very good at. Okay? So basically, your child is unique, and I think you as parents know your child best. But at the same time, there are professionals who know more about the average 22q child, and use our knowledge. That's what we're here for. Okay? Thank you.